I'm going to defer to Logan to determine what's the biggest story out of Blackman, Wilson, Terry, and Love Taylor. We'll start with whatever you choose, Logan. Whatever's the showstopper, the headliner in regards to bad news.
Bring it, Logan.
Oh man, probably for me, just personally, I'd go with Tamorrian and Terry. I don't think a lot of these, except for one, are a major loss to finish Florida State season. I don't think there's really a season left. But Tamorrian and Terry is more of one you kind of could have seen coming. A lot of these, for Devontae Love Taylor was an injury. Marvin Wilson, he's dealing with an injury, knee, blah blah blah. Blackman expected, but for Terry, his was more of, okay, he played, obviously didn't look 100%. He wanted to play, but he's had just bad communication and also some bad conversations we've seen publicly on TV between him and Ron Dugans, his wide receiver coach. So that it's not really, a lot of these are kind of not a shock to a lot of people. There's going to be more on the way, most certainly. There's going to be a lot more. I mean, you can just see from players' Twitters. I mean, they're removing Florida State things and headers and bios. So a lot of this is just kind of like the beginning. But Tamorrian Terry, I think, is the biggest one for me. For me, I think his third option is staying at Florida State. I think the other two are transfer somewhere else or just go get ready for the NFL. He'll be most certainly picked up for sure. He'll just be late in the NFL draft. But I think his third option would be staying at Florida State right now.
I think Logan's 100% right. I think Terry, you could say, give him credit for trying to come back after having surgery, coming back from the injury. But I don't think he should have come back against Pitt. And, it's obviously, we can look now and say he shouldn't have after seeing what the hell took place this past Saturday, the massacre inside Doak. But I think that one's a little surprising. I wonder when our leader, Mike Norvell, says, oh, he's no longer with the program. Well, did you kick him out? Did he say, I'm done with this crap? I mean, that's the question, but Norvell playing the diplomatic role. I think Marvin Wilson, you saw that one coming because you could tell that there was a little bit of friction between him and Norvell going all the way back to July. Love Taylor, he's been injured multiple times this season, so him being out for the rest of the season is not a shock. And James Blackman, I was very – and I will say something. Being at the game, I'm going to get on a soapbox for a little bit. There's a lot of fans that pissed me the hell off, booing James Blackman when he came into the game, coming in obviously because the offensive line, Logan's favorite unit on that offensive line that basically killed Jordan Travis in the first half against Pittsburgh and basically killed him for the last 4 games.
And other teams, their whole entire season.
With no help from our Special Olympics offensive line we've got going on there. With that unit, James Blackman has been the man who came in. He was thrown into the fire in 2017. He was everyone's favorite in 2018 for the one game he played against NC State. 2019, he was never given a chance, and he ended up having to split time with Alex Hornibrook, of all people. And now you guys are going to boo him? So to all fans who booed him inside that stadium, I'll just say it. You can all go to hell. Because James Blackman has done nothing but good things, has been nothing but a team player for that program, and you're going to boo him? I hope he goes to FAU, follows Willie Taggart to FAU, and just balls out for the Owls. Because that's where he's probably going to end up going. Let's just be honest at this point. But, yeah, it was I know Logan wasn't there. I know James wasn't there. I know Mark wasn't there. But and then I asked Mark before the show what his lowest point was as a Ohio State fan. That was one of the lowest points as a Florida State fan, was being there and having to watch a team essentially give up.
I'm trying to figure out which of these guys made an impact this season. The other ones, Wilson, he has an injury. I believe he has the hand injury. It's an injury. It's something that if we were in a better position, he would probably fight through. But it's something where where there's nothing to play for. So he's in that position. So why risk it? The Terry situation is the more damning one. I think I came on. Somebody asked about energy. And I say this on a lot of podcasts, my own in particular. Facebook has this great thing called On This Day app. And a lot of people say, I didn't give up on Willie until such and such. We gave Willie such and such, which is simply not true. The Fire Willie bandwagon banter got fired up, like cranked up after Boise. The second game with Louisiana Monroe is when all the Stoops rumors started. To get to that point at the second game of year 2, that means you had to have gotten to that point at some point in year 1. Well, there is a great video of Peter Warwick galvanizing the fan base to go and support these guys no matter what happens. They're trying hard. They're doing this. In 2018. Now, it was a problem then, and it is a problem now with Mike. But the only reason it's a problem with Mike is because of everything that people were told. We were told about buy-in. We were told about we getting coached. We were told about it looks different. We were told about a lot of these things. And now we were told that he's not a great recruiter, but once people see the on-field product, he'll be able to recruit. So now people are suggesting we need to get rid of a bunch of players and flip the roster with his guys when they admitted before the season that recruiting's not his thing. Bigger than that, you want to get a bunch of guys who weren't happy at their previous school to come in and change the culture at your school. But bigger than that, I can tell who's never been on a damn recruiting visit. Show of hands, common sense. Who hosts you on recruiting visits? Anybody know?
Your position. Guys on your
Not just
position.
that. Guys on the team.
Mhm.
If guys on the team don't want to be there or they got one foot out, who's going to convince you to come to Florida State besides the coach? Terry being more damning is because Terry's not necessary. We don't know if Terry's leaving to go to the NFL. More than likely, Terry's going to leave to go somewhere else. And just like DJ Matthews, who a lot of people want to blame and call it cancer, DJ's going to go to a Power 5 school. Terry's going to have his pick of going to a Power 5 school. Some of these other guys that are going to leave, well, that are contemplating leaving, I'll say that because it's a complicated position, are going to go to Power 5 schools. They're leaving where they're at to go to another culture which they're going to buy into, which I hate buying. I may admit I hate buying. But at some point, we got to stop being so sensitive to where we can't at least be truthful with ourselves. Because what ends up happening is other fan bases start looking at you like a fool, and they start telling you that's the worst recruiting. The worst recruiting don't come from former players being critical of the programs that they built. It comes from when people lie to themselves about what this is. Now, I think it could get better, but I think it's going to take a lot of stuff. Like a lot of moving parts. Number one, Mike's going to have to look in the mirror and figure out what the hell happened between here and Memphis. Because there's only one common denominator, and that's him. And then he's got to look at his staff, and you got to honestly ask yourself, which I think it will happen. We talked about it a little bit. I think they probably will use Fuller as the scapegoat. But how can you use Fuller as a scapegoat when the offense doesn't look great? But the reason why you can't say anything about Mike is because you haven't had a spring in COVID. Did Fuller and the defense have a spring? Did they not have to come back COVID all of a sudden? It's either an excuse or it's not an excuse. You can't have it both ways. And that's the frustrating part. That's what people are seeing. They're seeing that you don't even know from the media and the fan, but you don't even know what you want to say. And on top of that, you want to blame the people who didn't have a spring or a COVID in the players to give the coaches the head coaching out because you like him. It's like either it is or it ain't. And I'm fine either way. It's just you gotta have the how are we going to pick this apart, because either way it's not the standard, man. And to lose to Pitt, even though Pitt does have a great D-line, but to have a quarterback with one leg scramble all over you, to have a coach know that your weakest point is your defense, but all four of their offensive touchdowns were scored inside the 50 because you went for it on fourth down. Tell me, just forget you two guys. Mark, tell me what about a good coaching strategy is to consistently put your defense on a short side of the field when it's the weakest part. Tell me that's like Bill Belichick style, right? Would Urban Meyer do it?
No.
Exactly. So
No.
when people are questioning the coach, that's why. It's not because they don't like him. It's because my mother, who's a 60-year-old woman who ain't never played a sport in her life, can look at the TV and ask me, hey, it's not supposed to look like that, right? But she knows what Florida State football is supposed to be. And I have to, part of this this is probably the most passion I've had about it, because I've always been a fan and I played it, but it's a bunch of excuses that I as a player never got. And we won. We didn't get beat by the Pitts of the world. When I lost to Maryland, that was one of the best Maryland teams that they ever had. The Miami teams that I lost to were the best collection of Miami talent that they've ever had. When I lost to Florida, it was Urban Meyer when he first got started with Florida. The teams that I lost, the NC State teams, the teams I lost to, you could go and say that is the greatest assembly of talent that university has ever had. And we get called the lost decade. That was not Pitt's best team. Aaron Donald wasn't on that damn team. They didn't have no good. They're running back. They averaged 2 yards of freaking carry before they played Florida State. That wasn't the best Louisville team that they played. That wasn't no damn Lamar Jackson back there. We just made them look. Louisville was on a losing streak.
So was
we
Pitt.
turned them around. Pitt was on a losing streak. We turned them around. We are the best comp. We are the best. We are slump busters. And we are a $7 million a year slump buster, because that's the buyout and what you got to pay the coach Norvell. That is too expensive to not have expectations. You don't tell somebody with a 1,000-yard returning receiver, 3 of the top 10 defensive tackles in the nation, a collection and assortment of talent in the secondary that everybody in the nation wanted. And with an offensive tackle that was supposed to be one of the best projected in Love Taylor coming in, with an offensive line that was improving. You don't pay that kind of money for this kind of results. You don't have to ask for the man to be fired to at least freaking acknowledge that. And he can't recruit. You got the best collection of talent in the 850 that they've probably had since I was there. And we're probably going to go over. You can't get anybody in Miami like that. You're going out of state because you don't have in-state ties. You won't take a kid from St. Thomas Aquinas who's begging you to come, who's a 4-star. But people want to know why you're critical, not negative. You're critical. That's not emotional stuff. Those are all factual things that you can go look at, and you can actually either you can present evidence for or against it.
Mm-hmm.
That is what it is. It's wild. And what's wilder is the fact that people I mean, it's hard to digest this stuff because you can't even game plan. I can say we should beat NC State. On paper, we should beat NC State. They're not world beaters, but you can't say it. You got to say FSU sucks. That's tough.
Well, I think the two things that most fans want to see, reasonable fans, even if they know that the program was in a bad place and is in a bad place and the talent's not what it's supposed to be, and we're not going to have the type of year that we're used to having during the glory years, they at least want to know that the coach and the coaching staff has prepared that team to win, that they know what the hell they're doing. They can develop players. They can implement a game plan that's workable, and they can adjust during the game, number one. So there's preparation. People know their roles. There's accountability. That there's leadership on the coaching staff. So they know football and they know the team and they can lead a team and prepare football players. And number two, just flat out effort on the field. And if you at least get those two things, then I think people can go through seasons like that. But we're not seeing that out of this team. We're not seeing just flying to the football, effort, relentless play. Like James says all the time, alpha dogs getting after it, and we don't see the team prepared to play, and then the coaching staff making in-game adjustments to give them the best shot to win.